a recent graduate, just graduated from the program this summer, which is a great opportunity to hear from her and her experience post-grad and finishing up the program. And then we have Lubna and Jacqueline, who are both first-year students, and so they'll be able to answer any questions about interview day applications, since they just went through that not too long ago, and also that transition to grad school, from undergrad to grad school. All right, so let's dive in. Next slide. So these are some of the things we're going to cover. Like I said, we're trying to cover as much as we can today, and still leave some time for questions. But we're going to go over the profession, the mission of the program, some of the highlights, career opportunities, academic plans for completing the program as far as coursework, field placements, licensures, certificates, and then capstone. And then we'll dive into the application process, admissions, tuition, and the student experience. Next slide. All right, so I wanted to start with the profession because I know some of you are in the process of trying to decide between different types of mental health professions within the broader field of mental health counseling. Marriage and family therapy is unique in a couple different ways, and I wanted to make sure you had a kind of a clear sense of what sets our field apart from other fields in the mental health counseling world. So we view problems through a systemic lens, which means that we're not just looking at the individual, we're looking at the context that that individual lives in, mainly their relational experiences. And so when we work with individuals, we're still working from that relational lens, that they are being influenced and are influencing the people around them. And that's unique approach to doing counseling, is to approach it from that systemic lens. Secondly, if you know you're interested in helping relationships, if your passion is in helping people improve the most important relationships in their lives, then a field of MFT is definitely the right field within the larger mental health field. And then the other piece that I would take into account as you're looking at the different professions is kind of the setting, like where do you want to work and what populations do you want to work with? I've listed here some of the different types of problems that you're going to be well suited to treat when you graduate. So depression, anxiety, divorce, intimacy issues, couple distress, parenting issues, infidelity, behavioral issues in children, grief, loss. And so you can kind of zoom in and say, oh, I really am interested in working with couples. Well, then the MFT profession is definitely the right fit. If you're really interested in working with children and families, the MFT profession is a really important, going to fill an important piece of knowledge and supervision that you're not going to get in other programs. All right, next slide. So the mission of the MFT program, I'll just read it real quick. We won't say much more than just reading it, but the mission of the MFT program at the University of South Florida is to advance a systemic and multiculturally informed approach to improving the lives and relationships of individuals, couples, and families through supervision, training, and educating students to become competent in the areas of theory, practice, and research based on COAMFTE developmental competencies. The faculty here are all AMFT approved supervisors or supervisors in training, which means that you're going to get very specific type of supervision that's very relational and from people that are trained and experienced in working with relationships. All right, so let's look at some of the highlights here. We have the thing that makes us unique, even among MFT programs, right? So you may know that the field of MFT is the right field for you, but you're trying to decide which program you want to join or apply to. The things that make us unique is that we're very specialized. We have a very narrow focus in our program, but it goes very deep. And if that interests you to get a very deep program, then ours is a good fit. We also have 14 consecutive months of field placement. So once you start field placement, you're there for the next 14 months. We're also one of two COAMFTE accredited marriage and family master's programs in the state of Florida. And we have clinical faculty, all of us practice. And so our teaching is based not on just what we read in books, but we're all practicing clinicians, and we bring that to the teaching as well as to our supervision. We also accept a fairly small cohort compared to other programs. We'll be accepting 16 this year, which is small when you look at other universities. And we also have only a full-time program option. So we don't do part-time tracks. Everybody that's accepted in the program is going to be accepted into a full-time program. It's also a lower cost because we're a public university. Our rates, tuition rates, which we'll cover at the end here, are actually much lower than the private schools that you may be looking at as well, or online options.
To build off that, we were actually ranked number 12 U.S. news report in the nation for best value universities. So that is something we always like to rep a little bit. And like he said, we'll have kind of a breakdown of the costs and things like that too. So I know a lot of the questions in the chat are about aid and things like that, and we'll also get to that, and I'll post some information about that too.
Before we move on to the next slide, let's actually have one of our students just jump in. Any of you can jump in, but I'd love to hear just kind of your experience of being in a smaller cohort, working with the faculty who are all practicing. Anything you want to share with the larger group.
I'd be happy to jump in.
Sorry, go ahead.
The smaller cohort, that's something that was a very important to me. And being in it, I feel like Lubna could speak to this as well. Our cohort is already became so close. It's so fun to have, all your classes with the same people. You truly get to know these people and they truly become your friends. We all sit together at lunch and chit chat. It truly is like one big family, and it's just been so amazing.
Thanks, Jacqueline. All right, I'm going to turn some time over to, oh wait, who's jumping in?
I just wanted to second, yes, everything she said. I know it can be scary, kind of. That's something I've noticed that's different in grad school versus undergrad, having those like large auditorium classes. Having a small cohort helps you really feel supported.
Nice, thank you. I'm going to turn some time over for this next slide to Dr. Pena.
All right, so covering MFT careers. The graduates in our program, we prepare them well to work in diverse settings and environments. And so I've had the opportunity of working in various of these environments listed here at different points of my career. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up. And I share this to just encourage you all in knowing that as marriage and family therapists, you can work in these various settings and still remain grounded in your professional identity as systemic thinkers. So I will go through some of these different professional identities just to give you some insight to what you can expect as a marriage and family therapist and your role there. For example, if we start with private practice, in this setting, you'll typically provide therapy to individuals, couples, and families, usually in a group practice setting. While you also have Veterans Affairs, so the VA, you're serving military members and their families. You're addressing trauma, reintegration to civilian life, and relational stress. Some other settings are Here at USF, so university setting, you can offer counseling services to students, potentially teach, and once you're fully licensed, engage in supervising trainees in higher education environments. There's also medical settings where you would provide ongoing therapy with and collaborating with others in healthcare teams to address the emotional aspects of illness and recovery. There's rehabilitation and residential treatment facilities where you're working with clients in a 24-hour care program addressing mental health, substance use, and or behavioral issues. And lastly, again, just going through a couple of these briefly, there's also community agencies. And so in these settings, you tend to deliver accessible mental health services to underserved populations. And next slide.
All right, so just to dig in a little on what to expect when you are in the program. It's a full-time master's program, like I said. It's 6 semesters straight. So fall, spring, summer, and you graduate that summer. Each semester, you're going to be taking 3 to 5 classes per semester. It's heavier on the front end. And then when you get into field placement, it tapers off and you have fewer classes, but you're also doing your field placement. Next slide. So in total, it's a 60 credit master's degree. You have 42 of those credits are going to be core classes that everybody has to take. You get to choose 2 classes as electives, which we'll go over in a few minutes. And then you have 12 credits of field placement, which totals your 60 credit. We also offer a addictions certificate. And if you're going to do that route, it does require 3 additional credits. So it's 63 credits because you'll have to take an additional elective to fulfill that requirement, which I'll go over in a little bit. Okay, next slide. So those are the 2 options to get just the MFT master's degree or the MFT master's degree with the addictions substance abuse certificate. And with that substance abuse certificate, you actually can graduate with the MCAP, which is a state certification for working with addictions. Next slide. So this is the plan of study. This may change slightly, but at least it gives you a sense of like how we break down the semesters. Everybody will be taking the same courses minus the electives, which you'll get to pick which ones and which semesters you're going to take those. But everybody else will be taking all the same. So your first semester, you're going to have 4 classes. And if you do an elective, you'll have a 5th class your first semester. In spring, you can see there you have 4 more classes, all preparing you to start field placement, which happens in your first summer. And then you can see there you only have 2 additional classes besides practicum. In practicum classes, our students working in the field, they will tape their work with clients in the field, and then they bring those tapes to class and we provide supervision, group supervision and individual supervision on the work that they're doing out in the field. Liz, do you want to just share a little bit about practicum, and maybe Riley, just share a little about your experience doing practicum in your first year of the program?
I'd love to, though, Dr. Henry, you're springing this on me. I didn't know I was going to talk about practicum, but I'm delighted to talk to you guys today. I spent most of my practicum internship at the Veterans Administration, where I currently work. This is my office. I get my own office. I'm delighted. I've only been here a few weeks and I'm still really happy to be here. But I highly enjoyed being able to work with the Veterans Administration as a veteran myself, but also to be able to give back to this population. It's an excellent place, or it was for me an excellent place to get my relational hours, not have to worry about quite a few of my classmates had a lot of individual hours, but had a really hard time being able to get their relational hours. But almost all of my clients are couples. Matter of fact, my entire caseload right now is all couples. That's all we see. And it wasn't hard to get the minimum 400 either, or the total of the 400. I do recommend, though, when you go into practicum, when you are interviewing, it's not just them interviewing you to see if you're a good fit. It's also really important to be interviewing them to see if they're a good fit, because not every site can meet your needs, to meet the needs that you have as an individual. So just make sure you do your homework, and practicum's great. You feel a little bit like you're being thrown into the deep end, but it doesn't take long to start feeling like, oh, I actually am prepared to do this. And then it becomes a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking off of Liz, because she did kind of cover a lot of the bases. You know, I'm currently a second year grad student and I am in the thick of it. I'm at 2 sites right now. I'm currently at a private practice, which is where I'm at right now, and a nonprofit agency as well. And it really has given me the opportunity to get a variety of experience and kind of hone in what I'm wanting to do as I move further into my career. You know, the faculty is incredible and the supervisors have been great, but I do think, you know, it is important to be interviewing the sites that you are at as well, because it is important to make sure that you are getting what you need out of your experience.
There was also a really good question in the chat, so I wanted to open that up to some of our current students. The question is, did you guys start the program knowing the types of clients that you wanted to work with, couples versus individuals, children, etc., or did you figure that out through field training or placement or practicum?
For me, I had a little bit of clinical experience, like sitting in and watching sessions before, so I did know that I wanted to work with couples and families, but I didn't know if there was like a specific route I wanted to go. I didn't know if I wanted to do nonprofit or if I wanted to go into my own practice, or if there was a specific niche thing. Like I really like working with grief, loss, and trauma, which I learned through working at my nonprofit practicum experience. Yeah, I think that might answer the question.
Perfect.
I
Yeah,
can
there's-
dovetail off of that.
Okay.
When I came into the program, I wanted to work with individuals. And as soon as I started meeting with couples, I fell in love with that work. So this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I think.
Yeah, we don't expect you to know what populations, some of you may come into the program knowing kind of what populations you want to work, but we expect that as you learn and as you get exposed to different populations, you're gonna, like Liz just said, fall in love with certain populations that you didn't know even existed or that you would even enjoy working with. So no pressure on having that already mapped out before you come to the program. And then as you can see, the plan of study, the second year of the program, you're doing a much deeper dive into treatment protocols for couples work, family work, contemporary issues, assessment, and you continue practicums every semester until the end of the program. All right, next slide. Hey, Dr. Pena.
All right, so yep, these are the course electives that we offer in our program. I'll go through each one just to give you a quick overview of what you can expect. One recommendation I have when deciding on which electives you would want to register for is think about your career goals, think about the type of settings that you would like to work at, or even engage in practicum. That can help in deciding what type of elective you'll take. So for example, if you have interest in, working with medical family therapy, then of course, I would encourage you to take the first elective. So medical family therapy and integrated healthcare. This elective explores the intersection between mental and physical health with families, or within families, I should say. Students will learn collaborative approaches to work alongside physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals within or for this elective. If you're looking at the following elective, which is trauma-informed individual, family, and couple treatment. This would be a helpful elective to take if you're interested in working at, let's say, Veterans Affairs or VA, or other settings where trauma-informed care is one of the primary modalities and approaches that they take. And so this course would focus on understanding trauma's impact across systems. So you're looking at individuals, relationships, and families, emphasizing evidence-based trauma treatment modalities in that time, or in that course, I should say. And so students learn how to integrate trauma-informed care across all levels of therapy throughout the elective. And so the following is group theories and practice. Here you're examining the dynamics of group therapy. So if you're interested in perhaps working at a residential treatment facility, rehabilitation treatment facility. And so I would encourage you to sign up for this elective. And as you're learning about the dynamics and structure of group therapy, you're gaining hands-on experience as well in facilitating therapeutic groups. And so this course prepares students to design and lead therapeutic groups effectively, also understanding the stages, the roles, and interventions that foster group growth and cohesion. The following elective that we have is individual and family treatment with children and adolescents. So for this elective, we're teaching developmentally appropriate interventions for young children and their families, and of course, adolescents. We're focusing on attachment, family systems, and play-based approaches. So this elective is good for students that want to learn how to engage children and adolescents throughout systemic and creative techniques. And so you're supporting youth and families and navigating emotional and behavioral challenges. And the last elective listed here being Intro to Play Therapy, and Expressive Arts, Santray. This elective introduces creative and nonverbal therapeutic models, or methods, I should say, that help clients express thoughts and emotions through play, art, and Santray. So this is an experiential course that lets future therapists in training explore the healing power of play and art. So you're developing skills to help children and adults with, let's say, words that, well, with treatment and expressing what words can't. Next slide.
Okay, so just a little more about the addiction substance abuse certificate. It is a 15-credit certificate. 2 of those courses are part of the MFT program already, which leaves you having to take 3 extra courses. But because you have 2 electives, 2 of those 3 courses are taken care of with electives, which is why you have 1 extra class above and beyond the 60 credit hours to complete that certificate. And next slide. Here's a plan of study to just show you kind of how those electives would fall into your schedule. The counseling approaches for substance abuse is the one that we have everybody take in the program. And then your first practicum is another course that everybody takes. And then you have these additional courses in red that would be those 3 additional electives. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kaufman to talk about field placement.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. So this is the exciting time. This is what you're all here for. So we've covered some of the coursework, but most of your work here is going to be in the clinical field. So Jake, if you'll switch to the next one, I'm going to go through just a few brief slides to kind of give you an overview of our process. Like Dr. Henry had mentioned, the cool thing about our program, within the 3rd semester, so that's your first summer, you will actually be out in the field for practicum 1. So we'll do practicum 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's 4 consecutive semesters of field experience with different levels of training as you go through. And those are face-to-face contact hours with your clients. And like we had talked about, we have a variety of settings from group practices to the VA to community agencies, nonprofits, lots of different areas to go from. The other specific part of our program is that half of your hours, 200, need to be relational hours. So those are going to be working with dyads or more family systems. And also you can do groups. So we do intensives. We work with grief camps and Camp Boggy Creek, where we work within a medical family setting to help you get some relational group hours and diverse experiences as well, which helps to get some of those relational hours for you. Go ahead, Jake. Okay, So, like I said, you're going to have 4 practicums, right? Each building upon the other practicum. So, Prac 1 being like just some of your basic counseling skills, getting used to being in the room, doing some basic reflection, validation, empathetic statements. In Prac 2, we're really helping you to dive into some what we call like dynamics, systemic interventions, and just kind of getting used to working with multiple people in the room and validating one without invalidating another. Prac 3 is when we're really starting to focus in on our theory. And just so you know, we really do run an attachment focused program here. A lot of us do use emotionally focused therapy in our techniques. We also train you in Gottman and many other systemic models. But by Prac 3, you're probably going to be honing in on a model, and say you're working with families, and that may be solution focused family therapy. And you're going to really start using those interventions in that course. And Prac 4, we really help you to get ready for your capstone project. And then also, I've taught this class in the past, we really help you to get ready for licensure and moving forward into the job market and all the fun things that you're getting this degree for. So that's a quick wrap up of that.
Dr. Kaufman, there's a question about field experiences being in the Tampa Bay area only. Do you want to speak a little about kind of where we have field placement sites?
Thank you. And that brought me back to another point too. So within it, so our normal guidelines now is we have field placement sites all the way to Sarasota. I have some in the Brooksville area. So if you're familiar with the Tampa area, we have about an hour from USF area where we do have field experience placements. And if you are commuting in, we're open to collaborating. I have many different community partners with that. So it's really up to you where you're placed at, but one of the requirements that we have for our program is that it's based within an hour typically from where we are located at. So, but if you're willing to drive outside of that or you live further out of that, like right now we have a student that commutes back and forth from towards the Orlando area a couple times a week. So we can work with you and be flexible. You know, we have students in Sarasota as well. And then my other question was, part of what you're going to have to learn to do, and you don't know until you get here, is balancing life when you come into field placement. So I was going to ask Liz or Riley if y'all want to speak to like balancing your field placement, the hours you need to go through your coursework, and then I know some of you have part-time jobs as well. So I don't know if y'all would like to speak to that a little bit.
I can. So, coming into the program, I was working part-time. And I ended up kind of having to sacrifice that a little bit just because of like it gets very demanding when you're kind of in the middle of it right now. We have 4 classes in addition to getting our hours at our sites. There is some opportunities that are paid still, and being able to navigate that depending on what your needs are when you are interviewing for your practicum sites is important if that is important to you. Yeah, it definitely is a little bit of a struggle, but you do kind of find your way and your cohort's all in this together, so we kind of bounce off ideas from each other.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot about knowing yourself and your own bandwidth. I had a part-time job, but I dropped down to 1 day a week simply because I was getting dental and vision benefits there. But one of my classmates continued to attend bar throughout her entire practicum experience, and she was always tired, but she did it. So, and then another one of my cohort mates had 2 small children, so having a job on top of that probably wasn't going to serve her well. So it's really about knowing yourself and what you can handle, and then being honest with yourself if you've taken on too much, and being able to take a step back from something so that you can finish the program.
Thank you both. And what I'll add to that, because this was popped up, I think, in the chat earlier too, what part of my advocacy for our program is trying to get more paid internship sites. So we have a huge collaboration with the VA. We have the second biggest training site in the US, right, where they offer a stipend. And some of our stipends are between our community agencies, and those range anywhere from $7,500 to $15,000 over 14 months. So we definitely have some community partners that are willing to come beside you. So those of you that are looking to be supported in that, those are options. They're not guaranteed, but I would say close to half of our students have paid internships at some capacity. Okay, next slide.
One last thing while you're going to the next slide. The program tries to help with this balancing by, I forgot to say this earlier, by stacking your classes. So we have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You'll have a morning and an afternoon class Tuesdays and Thursdays. You'll be on campus from basically 9:30 to 4:45 on those 2 days, but that frees up your Monday, Wednesday, Friday for field placement and part-time work if needed.
Great, thanks, Dr. Henry. Yes. Okay, and so this is another interesting component to our program. It's what we call the capstone project. So this is a culminating experience of working with a family or a couple over time throughout our program. So we do that instead of having a comprehensive exam. So what we'll do is throughout your program here, it will help you to identify a couple or a family, and you'll actually have different videos that you'll be able to share with us at your last summer in Prac 4 is when this happens, typically in July, June or July, and you will just share this with the faculty, and you'll go through different components of like assessment and different interventions and just kind of a summary of your work. And the great news for you is we worked really hard as faculty to put some of these assignments throughout your time with us to help you to start building that as you go, but you'll be adequately prepared to do that. And it's a great way to really showcase your work to all the faculty. Liz, do you want to say anything about could you say just a moment maybe about what the capstone was like since you just finished this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that capstone can sound intimidating because it is an hour-long presentation. But as somebody who's currently studying for the licensing exam, for one, I was like really thrilled that the culminating thing at USF was not another exam. It's not a comprehensive exam, but rather a presentation of stuff that you're the expert about. Nobody in that room is an expert on that couple except for you. So, and the only people you're presenting it to is people that you are in relationship with. So there are aspects of it that sound intimidating, but really the capstone experience was a whole lot less stressful than I thought it was going to be. I don't struggle with test anxiety, but I am so glad that we didn't. And that sets us apart from other programs that do have a comprehensive exam. So you're having to remember everything throughout. I mean, it's important to know the things, but it's still better not to have to be tested on them. So yeah, that's what I liked about capstone.
Thank you. Next. Okay. And then we just want to fill you in a little bit on what does this process look like for licensure. Okay, so our program puts you in process in the state of Florida to become a licensed marriage and family therapist, right? But you do have to apply for that licensure process. So upon graduation and in Prac 4, we'll help you to start filling out that application. You will have to get fingerprinted and different things of that sort, but you will become a registered marriage and family therapist intern in the state of Florida. So that is a 2-year process at least, and maximum of 5 years. And that means you'll be under supervision from a qualified state supervisor for MFTs. And you will need within those 2 to 5 years to get 1,500 hours of direct client contact hours and 100 hours of supervision. Also, the portability of degree. Right now, all states have their own licensure process, but the great news is we're COAMFTE accredited, meaning that most nationally accredited programs do lean towards licensing in that state. So we've been able to work with multiple students already moving through from state to state. Like we have a student that just graduated, just saw her at a conference in Philadelphia. We've had somebody go to Colorado. We've had somebody go to California. So we can help to navigate those and send you in the right directions as well. And I guess if we have a moment, Liz, you just went through this process, so I know we're kind of leaning on you, but how was that for you just now going through licensure? I know that sometimes the state takes 4 to 6 weeks, but did you feel adequately prepared with the process and getting in there, uploading all your documents, finding a supervisor?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, Dr. Kaufman, some of the assignments in Prac 4 are actually pieces that you need for filling out the application on State of Florida's website. So it was nice that we weren't being overloaded with extra assignments on top of actually doing what we needed to do. And come graduation day, we had all the pieces in place so that we could finalize our applications to become registered marriage and family therapist interns. And like you said, it's kind of all over the place. In our cohort of 7, one girl got her license in 3 weeks. Mine took 6. Another girl took 7. So it was really kind of all over the place as to whether or not we dotted all of our I's and crossed all our T's correctly. But I have to say, yeah, the program did everything. It's actually one of my favorite things about this program is that everything is intentional to making sure that we are prepared to become licensed professionals. And now that I'm an intern, I'm collecting my hours and I'm studying for the exam. But outside of that, after it's only been 2 or 3 months since graduation. And yeah, I have all that I need to pursue being fully licensed in the next 2 years or so.
Yeah, and then the last thing, thank you so much, Liz, that I would say, this was a question that just came up. All of our students that have just graduated, probably more than half of them had jobs already before they even graduated. So we're very intentional. We're very well connected in our community. Everybody that left the program just now had a job offer. One moved to Tallahassee, who I know is getting an offer right now. And then the other one's in Philadelphia, who we've connected some people to as well. But it's really, you're put in a really good position to get a job right out of school. We have some huge community agencies and group practices that tend to hire our students and the VA immediately. So really good position down here for pretty good financial jobs as well. All right, next slide.
There's a couple good questions. So I'm gonna read them out. For students, in what ways has this program changed or impacted your perspective on relationships, families, or any personal ideologies you had before the program? I thought that was a cool question.
For me, it made me realize how impactful relationships are in our own. Sorry, trying to find words because that is a really tough question. But relationships are so impactful to how we see and view the world, and also just in general our own experiences. We may not realize how much we lean on relationships. And it has pointed a lot at my own relationships with my family. And yeah, struggling with that question and wording, but yeah, I hope that helps.
Cool. And
I'm sorry. Sorry for interrupting. I have a question, if it's okay.
Yeah, ask your question.
Sorry for interrupting, but the main focus of my searching for next step after my undergraduate, I'm 4 years of psychology, and I live in Europe, and I would really appreciate if I know whether the program for me is good or suits good. And the question is this program 1 year or 2 years? Because I already have 240 credits, and I require 60 credits as a master. And what is the cost of the whole program?
So with that specific of a question, what I'd encourage you to do is reach out to me as a program director. I'd be happy to schedule a time to speak with you about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can you put like your email or something in the messages so I can have
Yes.
it?
Yep, I'll add that
it
to
would
the
be
message.
great. Thank you
Yes.
so much for the assistance.
And I'll also send an email with Dr. Henry's and our information to follow up with you guys. So don't worry. I know there's a million questions you guys probably have, and it's definitely you're not alone, and it's okay. And we're just really excited that you're here and thinking about us. So yep.
Thank you so much.
Right.
It means a lot.
So let's move on to the student experience. Next slide. Yep.
So
right.
our student experience, so we have a student organization called iLink. And that basically is just some folks that are doing small events and things around that. We have a student mentoring experience, mentorship program. Um, and so each person of the current cohort is matched with someone that's going through it, helps them through some of the small questions that you might have of, what classes should I take for electives and all the fun stuff. So you have a little bit of a guide. Um, and each student, they get a faculty advisor. They're both on this call. Dr. Henry and Dr. Kaufman are faculty advisors that help build your plan of study, depending on what you're wanting to do, whether you're wanting to do the core program with the 60 credits or you're wanting to add the added certificates. And then we have various skill building events too.
Maybe one of our first year students, can you share just a little about the mentorship experience you've had coming into the program new, the support you got from student mentor?
I'm happy to share. So I have a student mentor named Olivia, and because their cohort above us is a little bit smaller than our cohort, it seems like the norm was, 2 students per mentor. So my classmate Olivia was also, not Olivia, sorry, Emma, is also, has Olivia as our mentor. And having a mentor has been so incredibly wonderful. Just my first or second week in the program, we all went and got lunch at Chick-fil-A, and we were able to have a nice long talk about what it's like to be a second year in the program, what our experience has been being a first year, and she was able to provide a lot of great insight, and honestly just having someone who I feel comfortable reaching out to at any time if I have any questions about literally anything at all, whether it's hey, this assignment is due at this time and Canvas isn't working, what should I do? And her just having that insight and information. It's so nice to have someone to reach out to.
Thank you.
All right. So a lot of you have asked about the application process. And so that's our website. Again, our priority deadline is January 15th. Basically, you go to that tab, you create a admissions profile, and then you apply. And there are a few things that you need to add to your admissions profile. So I'll go into that on this next slide here. So it will ask for a resume and a personal statement. And what I tell the students is a personal statement is you selling yourself to us. Tell us what you're about and kind of what is your why. And then there's 3 letters of recommendation that you'll need. At least one needs to be from a professor. And how I like to view this is it's your professor or whoever's recommending you, it's their time to tell us about you, right? So come in with a game plan, right? Like I think students a lot of times are scared to ask about, hey, can you talk about this cool experience that we have? Don't be. If they can talk about something specific, about something great that you did, highlight that, right? So do that. GRE is required. And then you would also want to upload your transcripts. Your If you have some unofficial transcripts, great. You can put them in the workspace area of it. But they will need official transcripts before getting admitted, which make sure that you have the required courses there. And then it will have a background and drug screen form, and you'll pay a $30 application fee. And then basically how it breaks down is January 15th is our application deadline, and then we'll reach out for on-campus interviews. And then we have limited availability for some virtual ones. If that is a absolute necessity. What I will say to students is I always recommend that you do a in-person interview. And the reason why is you're also seeing if USF is a great fit for you. So see what it's like, the living organism that is USF, everything around it. Make sure it's a good fit for you. See some of the buildings where you'll have classes and all the cool stuff around the Tampa area if you're coming from elsewhere. And then we'll also email you throughout the upcoming weeks with our decisions. There's that. And here is kind of our breakdown of the MFT program admissions. So we have a cohort of 15 across 7 different undergraduate institutions, 3 international in our past cohorts. We went from 7 to 16 accepted students. And we anticipate to kind of keep with those numbers. So have about 16 students, and that's kind of the timeline down there. So January 15 is our priority deadline, followed by interviews in February and March, and then decision by March and April, and then we have like a date that we will ask, are you coming to us? And that's, we'll probably ask in later April, just to kind of give us a idea. And the next thing that I know everyone is curious about is tuition. So that's the tuition, 431.43 per credit hour. So we right now that is about 1,294.29 per class in state, and it's about 2,631.51 per class out of state. One thing that I also wanted to mention about our past cohort was some of the breakdown of where we're at. So I answered some of this in the chat, but I did see some questions. So the GRE combined score average was about 299.65, and the average GPA was right around 3.73. Again, we're looking at everything in your application. What I always tell students is we don't use AI, we use 2 eyes, right? So we're going through, we're looking at them at each one. So, if your GPA is a little lower, then maybe picking up some community hours where you're showing you're working with community agencies, whether that's, Crisis Center of Tampa Bay or something like that, where you can gain some valuable experience. It's always good. It's always something that we look at. Right now, some folks have asked about what's FAFSA and where can I get it. I will send out the link for FAFSA in kind of my follow-up email, but it is open right now. You know, in the past, FAFSA was quite burdensome to fill out. I'm a graduate student as well. And because I have an online profile through the IRS and I use
I'm not there today,
TurboTax.
period. Let's make some time to connect and talk through this.
Sorry. And then it really only took me about 10 minutes to complete. So it's not as difficult as it was in the past. So it's something that you can apply to right now. There are also state and national scholarships. I will send out a tab that says like other scholarships that you can apply to. Some of the best websites that you can apply to are FastWeb and College Board. So those are some of our favorites to use. USF also has a application for all of USF scholarships, and that opens in December. So it's usually mid to late December is when that opens up. You do one application. It is pretty cool. It has all of your information and it points you in the right direction of like, all right, you're a good fit for this one. You should apply. And then if there isn't like an extra requirement to do like a 500-word essay or personal statement, it will just apply for you. So that is something to keep in mind. There are certain places that do pay for schooling. So ask your employer. If you're working in the state of Florida, you might get the state of Florida waiver. There's more information about that on the USF website, but I will also send out that link as well. And then we currently don't have any graduate assistantships available, but USF in general has the ability, has graduate assistantships. And if you get a graduate assistantship anywhere in the college where you're working 20 hours, then it will cover the cost of the program minus some of the fees. So that is also another opportunity to kind of keep in mind. So there is that. And then this is kind of the time to open it up to questions. I did see quite a few coming in as I was speaking, so I'll try to go to the chat here shortly. And
Great. Yeah, Jake, if you could take care of the chat, I'll kind of field the questions that are being asked out loud.
Okay.
Michael, looks like you have your hand raised. Do you want to ask your question?
Thank you, Dr. Henry. It's a very streamlined program. It's very well put together for a full-time track. I'm planning, I already applied online. It was very easy to do the application. FAFSA was very easy to do. I'll piggyback what Jacob said on that. It was very easy to finish like in 10 minutes. I have a question regarding the references. I have a master's degree. I'm working full-time and I'm going to go to this program, I'm going to go back to part-time work to try to do the program. But my professors, I graduated in 2002 with a master's degree in school counseling. So could I just use my references for professional, or do I have to reach out to a professor from 2002? I graduated from the University of San Francisco. That's one question. The second question is, can can we use a waiver in the GRE? Because I don't have time to take the GRE. I have my state credential where I passed numerous exams, which was bypassed. I bypassed the knowledge test for the state of Florida because I was a visiting professor for DeVry University. So that's my two-part question.
Great. Thank you for those questions. So the letters we do require one academic letter. So one of your three needs to be from a past faculty who's had you in the classroom, who can speak to you in the classroom. So yes, you'd have to reach out for that one. The other two could be professional reference letters. The second question about the GRE, if you have completed a master's degree, then you're eligible to submit a request for a waiver. That request will come to me and I'll review your GPA, what degree it was in, and we'll make a decision about the waiver. So in your situation where it sounds like you have a completed master's degree, you'd be eligible to submit a request, and then that will be reviewed, and we'll get back to you.
Fantastic. I had a strong GPA. I could share it. It was a 3.8 GPA for the program when I finished the master's program. And I'll
Great.
If you can send me the link, yes, to do the request, I would be more than happy to send that out to see if I can bypass the GRE. And then I will start tracking to get the reference for back to 2002. I'd have to reach out to USF, which I'm all the way back in California. I'm sure they could find a professor who's probably retired that had me. And they can look at my grades, right?
And all the GRE, just send an email to me with that request.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Henry.
Yep. Okay, I know we're out of time. We'll stay on for a few additional minutes, but if anybody else has to go, we'll stop the recording at this time. But if you have questions you'd like to stay on, feel free to stay on and we'll answer as many as we can.